How's it going, Rogues Gallery, and welcome to another Alpha Clash video here on Red Zone Rogue. Today we're going to be opening up and reviewing this Alpha Clash 2-player Clash kit. This is currently the only starter deck product available for Alpha Clash, and so, yeah, if you are wanting to get into the game, this is where you start. So the quality of this is really going to influence a lot of folks' decision on whether or not they want to pick up Alpha Clash. If you want my full opinions on Alpha Clash, I have a video here going over it's kind of like a deep dive, right? I open up a box, talk about my full opinions on the game, whether or not I like it or not. So without further ado, let's go to a top down and open up and review, talk about whether or not I think this is worth picking up. Let's do it. All right, and here we go. Here is the Alpha Clash 2-player Clash kit. And I want to say before I get started with this, before I go deep into this, I have actually been playing Alpha Clash with 2 fully constructed decks. And I do want to say before we get started here that I do find the base game, you know, with fully built out and constructed decks to be very fun, right? So keep that in mind as we talk about this. I'm not going to say that this is inherently unfun, but I do want to just get out there and say that the actual game with fully built constructed decks is a fun game, if not a bit like some other games that you may be familiar with, like Magic the Gathering. I think the big selling point is what you see here, superheroes. This is a indie superhero trading card game, and as such, I feel is the biggest appeal of the game. Now, I have opened up one of these before, and I want to see how much I want to mangle this thing. You know what? We're just gonna go for it. I do want to say, the packaging here is really nice, right? This is an indie superhero trading card game, but it feels professional in terms of presentation, right? It feels really, really nice. We also have the potential to pull a special chase foil version of this promo card that does come in every single one of these Clash kits. So, without further ado, proceed with the box mangling. All right, so what comes in a 2-player Clash kit? Well, it's very simple. It just comes with 2 decks. There's no rules, and we'll talk about that in just a second, or any other fluff. It is just a 2-player Clash kit that does come with 2 ready-to-play decks. Now, I do want to say this up front. I do think not including the rules is both something that is common in the TCG industry these days and something that I think we should move away from. I personally really like when rules are included, so you kind of have an idea of how to play right out of the box. Obviously, there are tutorials on how to play online, and you know that's one of the ways to go learn how to play Alpha Clash is to just go check out some YouTube videos or their website. I do believe the rules are up on their website as well. But to be completely honest, it would be cool if the rules were in the boxes as well. I don't know if this is something that they intend to rectify in the future. I'm just kind of pointing out something here that I see as what I believe to be a very valid criticism. Of course, I think my own criticisms are going to be valid, but I think it's reasonable to say, hey, maybe include a a how to play booklet, or at least a quick overview, or something like that. I know it increases costs, right? It's expensive to do, or at least more expensive to do that kind of stuff, but it would help ease in new players. There is, by the way, a QR code here on the back if you want to know how to play. This is how you learn how to play, this tiny little QR code at the bottom corner. All right, so we have 2 decks here. We have a black deck and a green deck. The green deck features Magnate, and the black deck features Moxie. We're going to talk about the decks here because I have done some, experimenting, playing with these. Let's cover our poster boy here, Magnate, who, as you would look, or as you would see by his picture here, he's not a nice guy. He's actually the villain in this situation, which is kind of cool. So you do have a handful of foil cards here. So you have Magnate, and you'll also have a handful of his special foils as well. What I find really interesting between these 2 decks is that Magnate's deck comes with these 3 foils, but the Moxie deck comes with more foils. Ooh, hey, look, we got the foil chase. Let's go. This is the special foil that sometimes doesn't come foil, it just comes non-foil. But look, I think this is the special foil version of it. Go, let's go, mean streak. Okay. Anyway, what I was getting at is the Moxie deck actually comes with more foils. Like, it has 5 foils as opposed to the 3 from the Magnate deck. I don't know why, but it does. So the Magnate deck is more straightforward than the Moxie deck, I would say. Let's kind of go over the cards really quickly, and then I'll tell you what my opinions are and whether or not I think they're very worth it. So you do have this foil Magnate. One thing I will note here is this is the only place other than promos that you can get Magnate. You cannot get him from a booster pack. The same is true for Moxie. You cannot pull her from a booster pack. So right there, that is inherently like a reason why to pick up these decks. If you want to play Magnate or if you want to play Moxie, you do need to get the heroes here from the starter decks or from promos. We have some Rainforest, which are some Clash Grounds. More Clash Grounds with the New York City. We got some just generic cards here with Sonoro. I will note that you don't get a full playset of everything. So a full playset in Alpha Clash is 4 cards. So we got 2 New Yorks, 2 Amazon. We do have a full playset of Sonoro. We do have a full playset of Magnate, Cunning Planner. This one's pretty good. When he dies, you get to draw a card. That's not too bad. Magnate's Plan, Power Overflowing. This is a card that is just kind of like a must-have for any green deck. This is one of the Clash buffs, and you are limited to the number of Clash buffs you can have in a deck. You have another full playset of Destructive Arrival. What I'm getting at here is you do typically have full playsets of cards in the deck, but not exactly. So you have like 3 Magnate's Trap, 4 Menacing Magnate, which is great because that's the card you will want if you want to play Magnate in your deck. We have 3 Magnate Ready to Fight. We have 4 of the Gamma Spear, 4 Sonoro. And then we have 3 Magnate Unwavering Might, one of the higher cost cards. And then here we get to the big chase cards, or at least the big shiny ones. This is Magnate the Undisputed. You get 3 here. Even though I don't play with 4 of these in any given deck, I do find it slightly annoying that it's not a full playset, because that makes it so that people who want to get a full playset either have to buy a second starter deck or they have to get singles. I'm very much of the mind that a starter deck should be complete and you shouldn't have to buy 2 of them. So that is one of the big concerns here. So Magnate basically plays kind of like a mid-rangey style deck. These are actually both fairly mid-rangey. Magnate pumps up all of your Clash cards, and then once he has 10 life or less, you can force your opponent to discard a card. So it's quite good. Magnate pumps all of his dudes from the start, so he has a really strong board presence, and he attacks very well, and then in the late game, he just kind of helps rip apart your opponent's hand. I think the Magnate deck is both easy to pilot and pretty strong. Now, let's talk about Moxie. I do feel Moxie is the more difficult of the 2 decks to pilot. I'm not going to say that it's weaker because, you know, at some level it might be, but it also could just be user error because I think this deck is a little bit more complicated. If you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, Moxie is more of like an equipment style deck where you want to suit up your dudes with equipment, whereas the Magnate deck, he just pumps his dudes innately. You don't have to do anything to do it, he just does it. And then all of the other cards either give you good value, they're just very efficient cards, right? They're very easy to understand and very efficient. Whereas Moxie, well, you got some synergies here. So yeah, so this is Moxie. She's all about weapons and equipment and all that kind of stuff. So we have Moxie. She comes with some Denver, which does pump up your team a little bit. We have United Nations headquarters. So you see some patterns here. 2 of this Clash Ground, 2 of this Clash Ground. Then we have the generic 2-1, just like we had in the Magnate deck with Captain Maxine Riggins. We have Moxie. This one's great. This one's on enter draw card. I think this is better than the Magnate one. On enter draw card is very, very strong. We have a generic 2-2 for 2, Sergeant Weber. We have some binos, 4 of the binoculars, which are pretty good card. We have a Sharpshooter Moxie action card, or it's a trap. It's a trap. Incoming support. This is the Clash buff for this deck, so as such, you do get the full playset, which is nice. Is this the Moxie that lets you Yeah, this one's great. This is a Moxie that gives you card advantage. So like there are some really solid cards in here, but it's a little more tricky to play. Like this one is 3/1. On enter, you can reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. If you do, you can put a Weber or Edwards Clash card with initial resource value 3 or less from among them into your Clash Zone engaged. So you just play them, which is great, and then put the remaining cards into Oblivion. So it's a very, very synergistic deck. Here we have another Weber card. We have Colonel Edwards. As you also notice, there's not really many rares or higher. We do have Moxie's Light Power Armor. This card is a rare technically, and it's very good for this deck. It's just one of the more powerful equipments you can get because it gives it +2/+2 and flying. And then it can only be attached to Alpha Hunter cards, which I believe every Clash card on the deck is an Alpha Hunter. You do get 3 of these. You don't get the full playset, but at least you get 3 here. You get Moxie Prime to Clash. This is kind of like one of your bigger end Moxie cards. This card's also very, very strong. And then we finally have way more foils, like I said. So you have 3 of like this epic Moxie fully loaded, which is pretty cool. And then you have 2 of the Moxie's heavy power armor. Once again, I wish they just included full playsets of these cards so you don't have to buy 2. If you bought 2 of these starter decks, you would have a full playset of the power armor, the heavy power armor, at least. But then you'd have a bunch of extras of these. And also, these cards could be found in booster packs, which is probably why they didn't do it, but I would have rather had them not put them in booster packs and then just put them all in the starter deck. And then you're like, hey, you're good to go. Just buy the starter deck. Because they're already making you buy the starter deck because you have to buy it. You have to get the starter deck to get Moxie. Where's Moxie? She's hiding in here somewhere. Oh, she's right here. I'm blind. So, yes, you have to buy the starter decks anyway to get Moxie. Might as well, if you're going to put one exclusive card in the deck, you might as well put full playsets of cards as well because you have to buy it anyway. So, I understand why they're like, hey, you have to buy the starter deck, and then if you want to power it up, you have to buy booster packs or whatever, but I'm a little more on the consumer-friendly side of things, and also just the ease of play for new players. But yeah, overall, I think these decks are good, and if you want to play Alpha Clash, they are almost must-buys, right? Especially if you want to play either Magnate or Moxie. Having 2 decks ready to play out of the box is great for you and a friend, or if you're someone who, like me, just likes to get other people to play games, this is a great way to start because you're like, hey, I got my Alpha Clash starters, I'm going to sleeve them up, and then I'm just going to be like, yo, do you want to play with me? Pick whichever hero you like the most. So, yeah, I do like the product. I do think it's pretty good. I do have the criticisms that I said here, all stemming from not having a rulebook, and then also not having full play sets of cards in the starter deck, especially some of like the high rarity ones. And I'm still very curious as to why Moxie has more foils in the deck than Magnate. If you split this with a friend, by the way, the Magnate card here, this one also is you can get it in the booster pack as well. If you split this with a friend and your friend's like, I'll take the Magnate deck, they might feel bad because you got like more foils from the Moxie deck. They might feel better when they win because the Magnate deck is a little bit more, it's easier to understand and much more straightforward, I'll put it that way. And we're going to close on that. I do think the decks play decently well against each other. Moxie is more difficult to understand, but I think once you get there and once you learn how to play the deck, I think it becomes better. But yeah, that's the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you want to see more Alpha Clash content. We'll see you later, everyone.